It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show, as a follow-up to the previous episode that dealt with deck themes, I want to talk about strategy for the Ferengi affiliation as a deck, as well as the themes you might use for said Ferengi. Let's get started, shall we? In my opinion, the Ferengi as an affiliation in the Star Trek CCG are a very underutilized and underrated affiliation to base a deck around. Now, many years ago when I first made a Ferengi deck at the advent of these cards coming out in the game, it was a lot of fun to play with. And if you've watched my show, you've known that I've created a new Ferengi deck over the winter. And strategy and theme go hand in hand with the Ferengi. And there are many things to choose from. Now, my Ferengi deck as a whole is based on a theme of utter confusion. I want my opponent to not know what I am planning on doing or what I'm actually going for. Like, is my deck loaded with Latinum so I can exchange cards for cards and bring up things I need? Are my dilemmas meant for power, destruction, death, stoppage, stasis? What are they? Ferengi personnel actually have a lot of awesome attributes, and especially if you have multiple personnel with FCA, you can tailor missions towards the Ferengi better than a lot of the affiliations. And if you use some of the any away team may attempt, or any crew may attempt, especially with the attributes involved, you could conceivably get past dilemmas quicker than you might think and score those points. Ferengi ships, what am I going to use? Am I going to use Decora class Marauders, a transport? You even have ships the Ferengi have, like the Brielle repurposed Klingon bird of prey from the episode Rascals, where they bought surplus birds of prey. So now you have a Ferengi ship that already has a cloaking device and a tractor beam. The range is 7, the weapons are not that greatest at 5, and the shields are 6. You can always enhance those. There are a lot of cards that are suited for Ferengi use in a deck. Any of full planet scan, long range scan, any of the scan cards work beautifully because it gives you a window into seeing what's going on under dilemmas and also keeps you advised on what your opponent's doing, and that comes in very handy with the Ferengi deck. Cards like Countermanda, you know your opponent's going to play a lot of the heavy hitters. Why not stock a bunch of Countermandas, more so in this deck, just to screw with them and keep shoving them back in his face. Latinum payoff for bonus points if plays of greed aboard your ship when it destroys another ship in battle. X equals 3 bonus points for each officer aboard destroyed ship. Hello, there's some easy Ferengi bonus points right there, especially if your Decoras are picking on, say, a Federation runabout or a smaller ship from another affiliation that has 1 or 2 officers aboard. Instant bonus points. As well as the draw deck, you can stock many different combinations of events and interrupts that you would normally not mix as well in other decks. You have the total freedom with Ferengi to mix and match, and this is why, personally, in terms of strategy, I like my Ferengi deck to be one of confusion, as I mentioned at the beginning. Because confusion and Ferengi seem to go hand in hand in this game, as I've learned many times before, and is the core reason why I've come up with another Ferengi deck. Now, in the previous episode where I talked about the Federation deck and the themes and strategy for that, I mentioned that you have to closely look at dilemmas and personnel first and foremost. When you are building a Ferengi deck, depending on the theme, as well as the strategy, not so much the dilemmas, but more so personnel, equipment, and your interrupt cards are what's going to be key, as well as maybe taking a look at those ships I mentioned, because you want to switch it up when you're playing with Ferengi. It's the best strategy ever. That's all for today. Have a great day, everybody.